My name is Lydia, and I'm with the Public Information Office. This is the North Tarrytown Water and Wastewater Renewal Project. And I'm going to give you some Zoom tips. First, if you're joining from your computer, your notebook, your laptop, there's a Zoom toolbar down at the bottom of your screen, and you'll see these buttons. There's a chat button and a Q&A feature. And so during the presentation, if you have just something you want to share or a logistical or techie kind of question, you can type it in that chat box. And we're also going to have a specific time for Q&A, so you can submit your questions or your comments by clicking that Q&A button. Now, if you just don't feel like typing in your question and you want to speak it instead, at the bottom of your toolbar, there is a raise hand button. And so you can press that, and when it's your turn, I'll allow you to talk and you'll unmute yourself and you can ask your question. If you're joining from a cell phone and you can't type your question in, to raise your hand to speak, you'll press *9, and then to unmute yourself, you'll press *6. So if anybody's on a phone, *9 and then *6 is how you'll be heard. I don't think there's anything else. This meeting is recorded and we'll be posting it on our website and sharing it later. I think that's it for me, so I'm going to hand it over to my coworker, Emily.
Thank you, Lydia. We really appreciate your help. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Chancellor, and I'm in our Public Information Office at Austin Water, and a big part of my role is to do community outreach for our construction projects throughout the city. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm going to cover our agenda here. We will start with our welcome and logistics, which we're doing now. Then our project team will introduce themselves. We have our entire project team on here tonight. Our project manager will give a project overview, an overview of what to expect during construction and what work will be done. And then we'll get to the question and answer section. And like Lydia mentioned, you can type in your questions at any time. And if you'd like to speak during that time, we'll facilitate that also. So our part of the presentation usually is about 20 minutes, and then we'll get into our conversation and answering your questions. If you have questions that are specific to your property, then we will ask you in the chat to send that information to the panelist, and then we'll follow up with you. General questions we're able to answer during the meeting, but if you have a question that's really specific to your property, we'll ask you to send your contact information and your question in the chat to all panelists, and we'll follow up with you to make sure that gets answered. And with that, I think we've covered these logistics, and I'm going to go right into our project team introductions. Shivani, you want to get us started?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Shivani Kesar, and I'm a capital delivery project manager with Public Works, and I'll be the project manager for this project. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Jeffrey Hodges. I'll be the on-site engineering consultant for the City of Austin, the Public Works Department.
And I'll just say Deidre Kirk, our project sponsor from Austin Water, is on the line but having a little bit of technical difficulties. So I'll let you know she's here, and her role for the project is to ensure that there's funding available and to help to lead the project. And we'll go to Hardin next, please.
Hardin Camp with Smith Contracting. I'll be the project manager for Smith Contracting, the contractor.
Okay, I'll go next. My name is Bimal Adhikari. I'm a supervising engineer with the Public Works Department Engineering Services Group. I'm the design engineer for the project. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And you've heard from me already. I'm Emily Chancellor, and I'll be handling communications for this project throughout, working with the project team. And now we'll get into our project overview. I'll hand it over to you, Shivani. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Deidre, I see that your mic is working now. Would you like to say anything regarding the project?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd just like to thank you for joining the meeting and hope you find this very informational. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Deidre. So everyone, we wanted to give you a project overview of what we'll be doing during this project. So the project includes replacing 6,000 linear feet of water line and about 8,470 linear feet of wastewater line. And in addition, 5 fire hydrants will be replaced, and some will be placed in new locations to meet the current code requirements for firefighting. And we are anticipating our construction will start in August 2021. And the whole duration of it, it will take about 27 months to complete the project. So this diagram shows you the area that we'll be covering. And the blue lines are for the water lines, and the green ones are for the wastewater lines. And so the project, of course, it's located in the Tarrytown neighborhood. It's Westover Road on the north, and then Exposition Boulevard to the west, Indian Trails to the south, and Winstead Lane to the east. That's kind of our limits of construction for this project. So what to expect during construction? We wanted to give you an overview. The contractor will be out there. They will be using some heavy equipment to dig trenches for the new water and wastewater lines. The roads will be patched after the line is installed, and all roads will be repaved at the end of the project. The construction phases for this project, their crews will be in front of your property a number of times to complete each phase of the project. And that'll include, excavation, pipe installation, some temporary paving, testing, repairs, and final paving also. So what to expect during construction? So the right-of-way, most work will be limited to the right-of-way. And in many cases, the right-of-way is located between the street and the sidewalk in an area that you may consider to be part of your lawn. It may be necessary for you to remove landscaping or other personal items in the right-of-way before your new water service line is connected to your water meter. And in the diagram there, you can see we've just highlighted a typical meter box that's in the right-of-way at your property. And a little bit more about what to expect during construction. So as far as traffic, in some cases, streets will be closed and detours will be provided. You will always have access to your home. For brief periods, your driveway access may be limited. And that's when the trench is actually right in front of your home. And that's the time frame that would happen. And you would be given well in advance notice before we're right outside your home. And as far as water service, at some point, your water will be turned off to connect the new line, but most likely just for a few hours on a single day. We will notify you via flyers posted on the door prior to turning off the water. Emergency outages are possible should a water line break during construction, but that would only be in the case of an emergency. And as far as work hours for the project are generally going to be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and some Saturdays and Sundays, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as needed. And as far as wastewater private lateral relocation, there are some cases that the contractor will need to access the property during construction. The individual property owners will be contacted prior to this work, and if the contractor has to access your property. And this is another piece that we wanted to bring up with all of you is as far as tree trimming. The contractor may need to do some tree trimming over the right of way where trees are hanging lower than 14 feet. So wanted to make all of you aware of that also, to expect that during construction. And I think, just to reiterate there that you will have access to your homes during the project and also to the driveways with just some limited times when you won't have access to the driveway. But the contractor will be available there in case of emergencies and you need to access your driveway. So I'll give it back to you now, Emily. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Shivani. Appreciate that overview. I just wanted to reiterate that we will be sending email updates throughout the project to give you updates on where work is occurring and where work might be progressing next. And you can sign up to get those email updates directly on our project webpage, which is austintexas.gov/North Tarrytown. And I think Lydia will share that link in the chat so you all can click directly on that. And then mentioned before, there will be project notices passed out by Jeffrey or one of his colleagues, and that you will get 48 hours notice before a planned water shutoff. And so that notice will be left on your front door. So if you enter your home and through a back door or garage, just kind of to keep a lookout on your front door for those notices. And now we're finished with our overview and we are ready to take your questions. So just as a reminder, I don't think we have anyone who joined by phone, but if you are on the phone, then you can press *9 if you'd like to speak. And if you have joined from your computer or tablet, then you can start typing in questions in the Q&A option, or raise your hand if you'd like to ask your question rather than type it in. So we'll wait for the questions to start rolling in. I don't see any yet. Oh, here's our first question. How many homes are affected by this project? Do we have a count of?
Yeah, the count that I have is there are approximately 34 residents that we may have to enter their property. But Bimal, would you happen to have a count of all the homes that are affected in our limits of construction?
Sorry, we don't have that count.
That's something that we can maybe follow up and provide later.
Yeah.
I see that Bob has raised his hand. Lydia, will you help to unmute him?
I'm going to click allow to talk, and then Bob, I'm going to ask you to unmute. So it should come up. I think we can hear you.
All right. Well, I'm not Bob because Bob died 5 years ago. I'm his wife, Lisa, his widow. And that's the reason that I asked about the number of residences is this. You talk about that 5-foot area from the sidewalk to the water meter. We don't have sidewalks. I've lived here for 30 years and Bob bought this house in the 70s and we have never had sidewalks. So if we had counted on the city to, keep that right of way in some kind of, beautiful or even, I don't know, reasonable state, we would have been waiting forever, which is why I and most of my neighbors have yards and gardens and retaining walls and trees that go all the way to the curb. So my question is this: I understand that, that is city right of way, but I also point out that we've all been maintaining that space. And what I'd like is for someone to come visit with me and look at my property with me and tell me just how far you're going to have to go and just exactly what I have to do to get ready.
Sure, I believe our team can do that. If you would, in the chat, send us your address and either a phone number or email address, then we'll be glad to follow up with you and coordinate in the field.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Anybody on the team want to add to that?
I think you covered it, Emily. Yep.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, I wanna add something. Yeah, we have to access your water meter and your wastewater service. So if it's inside your, garden or the lawn, yeah, that's where we need to access. So like Emily said, yeah, we can go into the field. Automatically, once the project starts, the contractor and the inspector will be there to coordinate all the connections. So that's a part of the project.
Yes, I'm just asking to know in advance. And yes, my water meter is accessible and I have things planted all around it. And so I have been maintaining this area. And so I would like, that personal help in terms of looking at my property and telling me what exactly I need to move and what I need to get ready for. So yes, I will put my address and my contract information right now. I'll put it in the chat. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Simon, I think you'd like to speak on this also.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Simon Orta, and I am the inspection supervisor for the area. Jeffrey Hodges will be the inspector on site, and he will contact you as soon as we get your information in the next couple of weeks, and we will definitely go and see you. I think a better explanation of the right-of-way, it's not necessarily the sidewalk. It's from back a curb. Usually it's either 5 or 10 foot into your property. That is the right of way of the city. So most services, the water meter and the wastewater service inlet is located within the 10 feet or 5 foot behind of curb into your property. So that's where we'll be accessing. And we can certainly talk to you about if there is anything that you'd like to salvage or take care of. We can certainly talk to you about that and let you know exactly where we're going to be digging and disturbing the area. But yes, ma'am, Jeffrey Hodges will be contacting you.
Jeffrey Hodges?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, super, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining tonight, and thanks for bringing those concerns to us. We appreciate it. All right, I have another question that's been posted. Do you know when the project will begin on Greenlee Drive? Will the curbs be cut through to access the water and wastewater pipes? Can this be done by hand and not with large machinery?
Emily, I can start this conversation by saying that, we are going to be doing the project in 7 phases. But Hardin, I know you're with our contracting company, M.A. Smith. Do you happen to know what was the location again, Emily?
It's Greenlee Drive.
Greenlee Drive. Okay.
They're asking about when the work will be done on Greenlee Drive.
Hardin, do you happen to know which phase of work?
I believe that is phase 4, which according to the current schedule is August the 23rd of 2022.
And of course, Emily, that's the tentative schedule right now, but I would say at least next summer to fall of 2022 is when that area is being planned for.
And then can someone speak to whether curbs have to be cut for the water and wastewater connections, or if it can be handwork or large machinery?
Yeah, and Hardin and Simon, chime in, but I think it is going to be machinery, but yeah, if you wouldn't mind describing some of that process to our residents here.
I think that'll be a case-by-case basis. It will depend on the, in general, it's mini excavator, backhoe type of equipment, but case-by-case basis will, have to be used depending on the conditions of the traffic, the conditions of the vegetation, the lawn, the location in relation to the house. Some work will definitely be done by hand. It just it'll all just have to depend on the exact location. And the inspector will probably be able to meet with the homeowner prior to us doing any of that specific work to go over what exactly will be needing to be done.
Thank you. I think it is really helpful for the attendees to know that Jeffrey and Simon will be coordinating with them, and that the project team will be looking at the circumstances at each location. And so if you have concerns or feedback, you can give that to the project team. And then we have a second question. Will the right-of-way only be accessed for the connections? And will the excavation all be done in the street? So maybe take the first question about will the right-of-way only be accessed for the connections?
No. The connections will go onto private property all of the way to the clean out at the house. And that could be in the front of the house, the side of the house, or the back of the house. That'll all just need to be determined case by case basis when we get into the field, once we get there.
And Hardin, is that the case? That's the case for just a limited number of homes in this project, right?
That might be a question better answered by Bimal. I'm not
Okay.
sure how many private services are affected.
Yeah, Bimal, will you address that?
Yes, tentatively, we have like a 34, 35 properties where we have to access either back of the house or front of the house, because there are some of the houses have the wastewater clean out at the back of the house. So we're bringing those at the front. And some of the houses have their clean outs either on the driveway or near the tree or very close to the house. So we have to access those to relocate at the street line as well. So tentatively, we have like a 34, 35 houses. So we are still verifying because this area is very old, and then those lines are pretty old. So when we did our survey, when we did our field work, we couldn't find all the cleanouts. So there are some of the cleanouts. So we guessed or found the information from the available resources, the Austin Water information. So we'll be verifying those when we go out into the field during the construction. So tentatively, we have like 34, 35 houses for sure, but it may be more or it may be less. We go out and find out all those services.
And I will add that those 34 addresses that have been confirmed, we did send a letter to those individuals earlier this month to let them know that a new service line would need to be constructed on their property for this project. So if you're curious if that affects you, you should have received a letter if it does. And the project team will be coordinating closely with the owners for those addresses. And then there's a question here, will the excavation all be in the street? I wonder here if the question is, I believe all of the new water and wastewater mains are being constructed in the street. Can we confirm that and maybe talk a little more about that?
Yes, the water and wastewater mains will be on the streets.
Thank you. Liza, I see your note that you put your contact information in the chat box, and we did receive it. Thank you for that. And so we'll be able to follow up with you. I see another question over here. 27 months sounds like a long time. Is there a timeline for the project, i.e. What will be done when, which you could share? Sorry, I got my tongue tied a little bit. So the question is about when work will be done. So I can start by saying that email subscription that I told you about, that is where we will give updates about where the project is progressing and going. The schedules do change, and so we don't want to put out a schedule indicating what street will be on each month because we know because of weather or other conditions, things can change. But maybe Shivani or Hardin, can you talk about where work will start for the project? Which street will you start and what direction will you be going?
The first street will be Winstead Lane, phase 1. And a part of that goes over to Tower, where it intersects Winstead Lane, Tower over to Dormarian Lane, which is not, Dormarian. Yeah. So, yeah, all of that, all of Winstead. I believe we will start with the wastewater on the south end of the project, down there towards Indian Trail, and proceed to the north on Winstead. All of that, and then that green that goes to the left onto Tower. Yep, right there. That's Tower.
Okay.
That little bit of green. So all of that wastewater will probably be done first. And I believe that section of water that's right there on Tower is also within phase 1. So then that will be done as well. That is phase 1. Tower, that little part on Tower and Winstead. That's where we'll be starting.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And as that work is finishing up, we'll send updates out to let you know when work will start on additional streets. Okay, Lydia, help me out. Am I missing any questions?
You are not. I'm taking down everyone's contact information that's sending it to me. We don't have any hands that have been raised and no questions that you haven't answered.
Okay.
So I can wait.
All right. I'm going to get us back to click through the presentation here and put up our project team contact information. So those of you who gave us an email address in the chat, I'll be glad to add you to our list to get the email updates. I'll do that following the meeting. Anyone on the project team want to make some comments while we're waiting to see if other questions will come in?
Emily, I know you usually mention that this recording will be posted. I know one of the residents had asked by when in a separate email to me. So what is the plan on that? Maybe we could let everyone know.
We will get this recording posted on the project page, and I will send out an email update once that's up with the link, and it's usually within a week. So we have a lot of projects starting right now, but I expect it should get up within a week.
Thank you.
Sure. And then I just always like to point out, you've heard from Simon tonight and Jeffrey Hodges also. Jeffrey will be kind of your frontline contact in the field. He will be there to ensure the project is being done according to city specifications and will be addressing any concerns from residents. The engineering construction coordinators are really a key part of our project management, and they just make things work all throughout the city. So I want to thank them for their work and just point out that he will be available to assist you during the project.
And Emily, it looks like we do have an additional question that just came in. Let me know if you want me to read it out loud.
I see it there. I can. So they're asking, would they be able to personally dig out the area in their yard to connect the pipes in the street?
And I could just start by saying, you know, this project has been contracted to M.A. Smith. So Hardin, you know, his team will be working on the project. We don't typically expect residents to, you know, participate in the digging or the project aspect. But Hardin or Simon, any experience you've had with that?
No, we don't have any experience with that, but I would assume that if someone is on their private property and they have a sensitive area and they want to take on that responsibility, I don't have any issue with us coordinating with them in that. If I guess we will be getting permits, and there will be inspections, so there could be an issue with that kind of a situation. I guess we'll just have to look at it specifically and see what the concerns are and see what we can work out, if anything. That may not be possible. I just don't know.
I
And
see that Deidre would like to speak.
Yes, thank you. There are liability issues with unlicensed people connecting and disconnecting from the wastewater and water systems. And just in general, an individual should not do that. That would be the role of a licensed plumber, and that would be on the property owner side. In the right of way and the city's infrastructure, that work has been contracted out to a licensed contractor, and he's insured. His workers are insured, so individuals cannot work in the right of way. You even working on your property is a risk. If you're going to be connecting or disconnecting from the water and wastewater system, we would recommend that you get a licensed plumber to do that work. But any work in the right of way with the city's infrastructure is either done by a city employee or by a contractor that has been hired by the city to do that work.
Deidre, I don't know if you can see, I don't think you can see it, but there is a clarification from the resident saying that they're not intending to make the connections themselves, but they would like the opportunity to dig out around sensitive areas in the right of way where they may have items there. So their question is just about the digging portion. And it sounds
Okay.
to me like we need to follow up and we don't have a firm answer on that. But Simon, I know you want to speak also. But if you will provide us your contact information, the individual asking this in the chat, I think we will need to follow up and we'll hear from Simon next.
Yes, I just wanted to I touch a little bit on what Harton had said. It does take a permit to dig in the city right of way, and that's something that would have to take out. And we can certainly understand if they have sensitive, foliage or some type of sign or bushes that they would like to save, and they're certainly welcome to go ahead and remove that. But they need to understand that some of these lines, it could be in excess of 4 feet deep, and maybe even deeper if they're going out into the street. So just keep that in mind. And Jeffrey Hodges will be in the area. We can certainly coordinate with him, and we'll be talking to you. And if you give us your information, we can go and at least take a look at what you're talking about and what you would like to do. And we can give you the options and certainly work with you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I see a question here in the chat. Will this damage underground irrigation systems? And if so, will the city reimburse the residents? If we are not home, this could result in water running off into the streets with no one to shut it off. Simon, are you up for answering this one, or Shivani?
I was going to ask Simon to elaborate on it, but I think, again, it goes back to if it is in the right of way, Jeffrey and Simon and Pardon will evaluate the existing condition of the sprinkler system and work from there. But Simon, yeah, if you could add to that, please.
Of course. So we usually, if we're going to be entering an area where there is an irrigation system, we usually ask the owners to run a cycle for us so that we can identify where the heads are or where the lines are or what type of irrigation system they have. Now, when we do go through, and we will usually try to hand dig and identify those systems and try to save them. If we do cut them, we will put back the pipe and do a splice and replace what we broke. We will not, if knowing beforehand where the system and running a cycle, we'll know how to turn it off if anything happens, or we know we have the system, the meter where we can turn off the water and certainly not be letting the water run down the street. But if you do have a sprinkler system, we will be contacting you before we do any of the digging to identify everything that we need to look out for.
Thank you all. I don't see any additional questions at this time. So I'll just pause and see if any others come in. It seems like we might be getting to the end of our questions. Shivani, do you want to make any comments before we wrap up?
Yes, I think, Emily, just to reiterate that this is a project that's for improvement for our water wastewater system. These are older pipelines, and it really is it's a benefit to the city and for your community. And it seems like a long duration, but I think with it being done in phases and with the clear communication, I think it'll be a success story there at the end. So that's all I have. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you. And we did have one question come in. So they're asking, how will you know that we have an irrigation system? Simon or Jeffrey, do you? Yeah. Simon, do you want to talk about the coordination in the field, or Jeffrey? How will you all
certainly
identify?
That's a great question. No, we don't have records of you guys having irrigation systems, but we will be able to identify where if we think you have an irrigation system, we'll be knocking on your door. Even if we don't think you have an irrigation system, we'll be knocking on your door, letting you know that we'll be working in the area and to see if it's possible to run cycles and figure out if you do or do not have an irrigation system. That is something that we typically want to find out in advance. Some of the houses have a really elaborate, really nice lawn, and their sprinkler systems is vital for that lawn to be maintained. So we certainly understand when you do have one, we need to communicate with you. So to answer your question is we'll be knocking on doors when we get near your house to identify all of that.
Thank you. Deidre, did you want to speak again? I see your hand up, but I'm not sure if it's from before.
It's from now. Thank you.
Sure,
I
yes.
just wanted to respond to the last question. It would be very helpful for those residents who do have sprinkler systems that they can either put that information with their address in the chat this evening, or they can contact one of the project contacts that is currently listed on the screen and provide that information. That way, the project team will already know that information and be able to plan accordingly prior to even reaching that location.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll be glad to receive that information. Okay. I think we're ready to wrap up. So while this is the end of our public meeting tonight, oh wait, it always happens. Okay, will you please put out the proposed schedule for all phases and mark them on the map you provide? So I think that the project team can look at what information we can provide. We definitely will notify everyone where the work will start, and we will send updates about as the work progresses. As far as the schedule for all the phases, we'll have to discuss that, I think, but we will provide the current information on an ongoing basis. Anybody want to add anything to that?
I think, Emily, you covered it. Some of it is planned, scheduled, so we would at least put out the initial and keep everyone posted of the subsequent phases. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, thank you all for spending your time with us this evening. We really appreciate you being here, and feel free to contact us throughout the project. We're here to help make this project happen as quickly as possible and create the least amount of disruption. So everyone stay safe and have a good evening.